Well, it's great to be here, great to be back. Appreciate that kind introduction, Mark. So I think Mark really likes me because I just keep redoing and renewing his contract, every 5 years, every 10 years, right? So no, Mark's a great guy. We wouldn't be where we are today without Mark Aceta. I mean, just amazing individual. He's blazed the trail for so many countries for World Ventures to go in. So give it up for Mark, you guys. Fantastic. I could go on and on. I remember in the beginning when Mark was like going over to Singapore and there was maybe, 100 people in the room. And I'm like kind of arguing with him saying, Mark, what are you doing? I mean, why are we paying all this money for you to go to Singapore, rent a venue? There's like 50 people. I mean, there's 100 people. There's more people showing up in Byron's living room in Wichita than Singapore. What are you doing? Well, I'm so glad that he made all those trips around the globe. And now here we are in Australia. By the way, this is a phenomenal tourist destination. I mean, I got to give it up. This country is beautiful. You guys are in the right place. My wife and I were talking earlier. I was like, I could just come over here, just hang out the whole summer, and just see the sights, and hold those little koala bears. Those are fun. We did that the other day. So. Anyway, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to share with you guys. I got about 35 minutes today. Before I get started, I would like to acknowledge my family, have them stand up there with me. Tracy, my wife. You guys stand up real quick. Jake, my son, my daughter Taylor, they're here. Give them a hand. And they're having a great time. You get to hear from more of them later. But I want to kind of get right into a talk that he wanted me to do. And again, I just appreciate so many of you for really pioneering this market. And that's what you guys are. I mean, you're like, Byron did a great job today. I mean, he was an early pioneer in our company. Can you imagine selling the Dream Trips membership? And, the good news was we had a membership. The bad news was we had no trips. So, or they were sold out. And he had that vision to believe in us to, make it happen. And that's one thing I want to share with you. You might want to take some notes, write some of these things down. We're a company that is built by reps for reps. So, I was in the industry full-time doing what you guys do for 22 years prior to helping Mike and Wayne start World Ventures. And so I know what you go through. I know what you do on a day in and day out basis. All I've done my entire life. And Wayne Nugent, Mike Asquith, Mark Aceta. So the number one thing that we do in the corporate office, being a company that's built by representatives that decided to start their own network, is to throw gas on the fire. And tomorrow, I'm going to be talking more about business strategy and how we're, spending money in the right places to support this region of the globe. And today, what I'm going to kind of get into for those that really don't know my story is I'm going to kind of get into my story. Mark asked me today, he goes, hold off the corporate business talk for tomorrow, but today, Dan, why don't you go into, your background, how you started in the industry. So that's what I'm going to cover. Fair enough? Okay, great. So, wow. Matter of fact, I've got some notes. It's been a long time since I told this story. So you guys mind if I have a cheat sheet? Everybody mind? You do mind? Somebody said, yeah. I'm going to use it anyway. Okay. So first of all, prior to getting involved in the direct sales industry, let me get a little water here. Prior to getting involved in this industry, I was a construction worker. I was actually a laborer in the labor union back in Florida, where I grew up in a small town, Sarasota, Florida. And before I tell you that story, I was a kid going through grade school, junior high and high school. I was so shy, literally. They used to say, Dan, you could not lead a silent prayer in church. I mean, can anybody identify with being that shy? Okay, let me see the hands. Don't be shy. Put your hands up. And so I was the kid going through, I remember it like it was yesterday, going through 10th, 11th, 12th grade, where I always took the 0 when you had to do those oral book reports in front of the class. You guys remember those? I didn't show up, or I just said, I don't have it. I could not talk in front of people. And it's amazing what happens in life. And then, as I was a construction worker, what's an amusement park, around these parts? Dream World? Dream World, or is there Movie World? They have rides and stuff like that. So I was the construction worker at a place in Florida called Epcot Center. And, for those that haven't been down there, I would tell you there's a few rides that you don't want to go on that I helped build, okay? Yeah, so, I was a laborer. I was a construction worker, and I went to work, I got paid. I went to work, I got paid. And I remember it was just, fascinating for me. When I saw this industry several years ago, I had a Mustang that I called the Rustang. I was working on my car, and I went into a hardware store. I went in there for a couple reasons. One is I was literally working on the car. I had dirt and dust all over me. I needed to get some new spray paint. I was spray painting my dashboard. And then the second reason I went in there is the cashier, her name's Nancy Metzler. I wanted to ask her out on a date. Okay, so it was like twofold. Now, I probably went into this hardware store 10 times, too scared to ask Nancy out, but today was the day I was going to do it. And so I'm standing in line, and there's this guy standing next to me, and he had one of those funny-looking buttons on from the company that starts with the big H. You guys know what I'm talking about? Herbalife, people say it differently. And I looked over at him, and I said, "Hey, what are you selling?" And he goes, oh my God, my wife putting this button on, and I just forgot that I have it on. You're the first person that asked me about it. And so, long story short, I never got that. We were right at the register. I never got to ask Nancy out. He was all excited. He follows me out to my car just to get him off my back. Some of you might have done this before. I gave him my number, and his wife called me up. And, you would have thought, standing next to me, looking at me, he could have prejudged me and said, "I'm not talking to this guy at all." To his good fortune, I ended up making him about $250,000 in the next 3.5 years. So, number one, never judge a book by its cover. But I tell you what, the best thing that happened to me with that company was I got into a training class like the one you guys are here today. Within a week, they came to town, and I met one of my biggest mentors. I was sitting in the nosebleed seats, like some of you are up top, and I ran into the guy that was doing the class, who was the executive VP of that company. He started sharing some things with me. They just went right through me, and it changed my life forever. And I never was the same from that moment on. And so one of the things that he taught me, and I want you to take notes on this, he said, you can become more because you can have more because you can become more. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? How do I become more? And he said to me, your income today is in direct proportion to your value in the marketplace. And I wasn't making much money, so I'm like, well, that's kind of a slap in the face. And then another thing he said, I'll tell you exactly, and I'm dating myself here, he goes, I'll tell you exactly what the rest of 1983 is going to be like. He said, just like the first part of 1983, unless you do something about it. For things to change, you've got to change. For things to get better, you've got to get better. He said, you've got to develop some new skills. And so when I saw this industry, I was 21 years old, and it was amazing. Again, I was the earning power of one. The concept of being able to get other people to work for you for a common goal, common vision, that have more credibility, more money, more skills, to be able to leverage yourself into the marketplace was mind-blowing to me. And I looked at networking. I want you to write this down. TAP-BC, TAP-BC. I looked at this industry, and what TAP-BC means is the average person's best chance. The average person's best chance. Where does the average person go today to get ahead without a lot of money to invest in a business? You guys tell me. Where? World Ventures. It's crazy. I was blown away in Hawaii at both the RMD trip and the IMD trip. But we had, in the IMD picture, John corrected me yesterday, 160 people in the photo, right, at one of our dinners, and their average income last year was $567,000 each. I mean, that's incredible, the way we're changing people's lives like that. And I look forward to the time that you guys are all there. And it's just a matter of time. It's a matter of being persistent and consistent and sticking with it and making it happen. And, so the time is now. You've got the opportunity to really create something for yourself. We're going to be in 100 countries probably over the next 8 to 10 years. I look forward to the day, if you've got the heart, as Byron said, if you've got the work ethic, that all of you can be in a position like guys like Matt Morris, where they're making money on all 30 countries, every time zone throughout the globe. Who wants to do that? Who wants to do something big and change your life? Yeah. What's funny, too, is we were at a meeting a few weeks ago. It was the Direct Selling Association event, and I'm looking at all these companies. One of them's doing $11 billion, another one's doing $10 billion, and they're playing in this space that is, I don't know, $500 billion, maybe $1 trillion in a global marketplace. And here we are in World Ventures, in an $8 trillion travel space. And we have no competitors for what we do in the direct sales industry. So that's kind of unique for us as well. And but let me get back to my talk. So when I went to this seminar, just something happened for me. I don't know what it was. I just felt like, I grew up in a household where I have 5 sisters. I'm the only boy. Anybody relate to that at all? Who has more than 5 sisters and you're the only boy in the household? Anybody? No hands in the room. Okay, so I grew up in this house with 5 girls, mom and dad, one bathroom, 1 shower. So I was pretty motivated to do what? Get out of the house. I mean, so I'm living in the house, I'm selling the big H, and I just put my blinders on. When I locked in to what they were doing, and I got lucky with that company because they went from $2 million to $10 million to $58 million to $140 million to $512 million in the first 5 years. And in the beginning, it was like getting a 747 off the runway. It was hard. I can remember struggling my first year to get my check to $1,000 a month. And, then it was go to 1,000, and then it would hit like 800, and then it'd go to 1,200. And I'm like, going, what am I doing wrong? And then there's something magical about momentum, because I can remember it. It was like I did nothing different from March to April of that, at the end of that first year. And my check went from like 800 to 4,200 in 1 month. And you almost say to yourself, how did it even happen? I can't tell you why. I did nothing different, but some of the people that I got started, 4 or 5 months earlier, they caught on. And then my check was stuck at like 4, and it went to 5, and down to like 3,500, and then, then all of a sudden went boom to 8,000, and it was kind of there for a little bit, and I went after all of my friends, all of my family to get them in that business. And you guys probably know the stories. Some of them got involved. Most of them did what? They petered out. They didn't work out. How many of you want this business more for somebody else than they want it for themselves? Let me see a show of hands. And so a lot of times, what do? We go back to the well over and over. We go back to the same people. Write this down. You can't push a wet noodle up a hill. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You can't push a wet noodle. They're either, like Byron said, they're either going to do it or they're not. So my key, one of them, is just learn to say less to more people. How many people are going to talk to 100 people about World Ventures in the next 12 days? How many people are going to talk to 100 people about World Ventures in the next 12 months? All of you are. My point is, why wait 12 months? You're going to do it anyway. Why don't you do it in the next 12 days? Just get after it, okay? And so as I'm building my business, back in the day, all of my friends, I can remember it, they were like, they didn't know whether they wanted to go to school, go to the beach, hang out. And so for you young people, who's under 25 here in the room? Let me see a show of hands. Okay. I want to share with you my wounded duck approach that worked for me pretty well. You want to hear that? So it goes like this. I called up all of my friends' parents, And, I had a bunch of friends. I called up all their parents, and I asked them the question. I remember the first guy I called, his name was Bill. I said, hey, Bill, this is Dan. Your son Jeff and I, we got to hang out together. We go to school. And I know you've been in sales and marketing for a while. Will you do me a favor? And he said, yeah, well, how can I help you? I said, look, I actually said to him, I saw something that looked too good to be true, and I hope these people aren't taking me to the cleaners. I want you to come out, take a look at it, and see if it's something that, is for me or not. And I remember him coming to the meeting. A few other parents did. He kind of put his arm around me. He goes, yeah, Dan, I'll take care of you. I'll look out for a young guy like you. Make sure these people aren't putting the screws to you, Yeah. And so over a couple-week period, I had about 20 of my friends' parents come to the Big H, and about almost half of them got involved, ended up being some of my biggest reps. So you guys use that one, okay? And so again, it was through hard work and effort. And one of my reps, and I'm not saying do this, but I sent him a VHS tape. Remember that? Who remembers VHS tapes, right? God, you guys are old. I sent him a VHS tape, and he goes, my VHS player's broken. And so I said, Mitch, well, become solution conscious, do something. And I couldn't get a hold of him for several hours. He was pretty inventive. And about, 4 or 5 hours later, I'm like, what's up? He goes, well, I called up my neighbor, and I said, I've got this video. It's about 10 minutes long, and that you told me that I had to look at it pretty quick. And my VHS player was broken, so can I come over and use yours? And his neighbor said, well, sure. How long is it? He's like, it's like 10, 12 minutes. He goes, all right, well, I'll sit down here with you. And they popped it in together. Guess what? His neighbor got excited, right? And the reason I couldn't get a hold of him, he goes, man, this is the easiest thing I've ever done. I've talked to 7 or 8 neighbors, told them all my VHS players were broken. They all are watching the thing. And he goes, I think I've got 3 or 4 people interested in this deal. And I'm like, Mitch, that's kind of a little deceiving, It is broken, but you already watched the video. I mean, it was crazy because about 2 weeks later, he goes, I got 75 people on my team. All of our VHS players are broken. We're going to show the business to 500 this week. And I'm like going, oh, my God. And when I told this guy to become solution conscious, he kind of took it to a whole new level. Anyway. So my day of reckoning in that company, and this leads back to Australia, it's kind of funny, was I worked so hard, and finally, again, I caught some momentum. Some guy that I thought was out of the business 8, 10 levels deep, wasn't doing much. He was spare time. He signed up a gentleman that was an ex-Fuller brush salesman. That's a sales company in the U.S., and that guy went out and sold $52,000 worth of product in 1 month. And boom, my check popped again. And, the meetings started to get larger. And it seems like all over the States, it was just really taken off. Some of the stuff we're doing now with helicopter rides, you guys might have heard of from the RMD trip in the south of France, from Cannes over to Monaco. I got from that meeting because that company, the first day, I remember they said, several of you, your incomes jumped so much, put your bathing suit on and meet us on the top floor. We've got something special. So about 50 of us went up to the top floor, and it was amazing. They had the helicopters picking us up on the top of the hotel and then flying us out to Bondi Beach, landing, right there on the beach with a huge picnic. And I mean, people thought we were rock stars. Like, who are these people, man? Chopper after chopper is coming down. Had a great day. I almost got killed on that trip because I remember the first time I got in the car, when I did rent a car, I took a left-hand turn into the right-hand lane, 4 lanes of oncoming traffic. You don't do that here, right? No. They say the left side is the right side and the right side is the suicide. But and then probably the biggest part of the deal was, who's heard of the band? Now, you guys, I know some of you are really old again, too, if you know this band. Who's heard of Air Supply? I mean, that's got to be like one of the greatest bands of Australia, right? Air Supply. So Air Supply, no? Somebody said no? One of the best, one of the top 10, right? Okay, Monica, for that guy, let's just play Air Supply for the rest of the weekend. He said no. Some people like it. So we're at, oh, wow. That's why we have that guy. Was that fast or what? Give him a raise. Oh, I'm the one to give him a raise. Okay. Okay, where was I with the story? Okay, so then they take us to the Sydney Opera House. There's like 500 of us, having a steak and lobster dinner at the Opera House, Air Supply performing for us. And, they were on stage saying that we haven't performed in Australia for like 10, 12 years. And the owner of that company flew them over on a private jet to perform for, a couple hours, flew them back. They were like, if our fans knew we were here, they'd kill us. But it was so cool to be, the prime spot in the Opera House, just 500 people, and we're getting treated to that type of treatment. Now I look back and I think some of the things that we're doing for our field force and our reps, and it's just it's exciting to come full circle. Start out as CEO and then be able to come back and lead and do things. And so I'm going to wrap up and just tell you guys, I'm excited more than ever. We're in a great position. The home office is completely aligned. We're putting our money where our mouth is. Some of you might have heard me say, $80 million just this year alone in new product enhancements, new technology, new tools, new systems. Next year it's probably going to be $150 million. We know where we're at. We know where we're heading. And the plans that we have to make this product the most valuable product in the network marketing industry, I believe, are brilliant. I think that, you guys are going to see that over the next several months. And we're going to make this business so simple that it's going to be like shooting fish in a barrel. Because we're virtual, because we're travel with the sizzle, the sex appeal, because we've got the team, the money, because we're able to hire some of the most talented people in all of the world to work for us now after 9.5 years of hard work. It's just an amazing time. You haven't missed anything but the growing pains. And so I'm so excited for you and your teams and what we're going to do. And I just appreciate each and every one of you for having us, back here in Australia. So thank you. And thank you for coming out with Stammen. I love this drink, Yeah. Take care, guys.